At its 77th General Convention in 2012, the Episcopal Church passed a resolution that called upon dioceses to start new congregations and to create mission enterprise zones, and it set aside $1 million to match diocesan funds for that work. Lots of people following General Convention said, "Hey, money for mission," and stopped reading the resolution. Had they kept reading, they would have read this rather startling paragraph. What would it look like to grant greater freedom? What freedoms do churches need to push the front doors of their churches out into their communities and the world? On October 26, 2013, Bishop Steve Lane asked the people of the Episcopal Diocese of Maine to reflect on those questions. Here's what they had to say.
To invite either the note taker or one representative from each of the tables to come forward and to offer a single sentence about what new freedom you would like. And it needs to, there are 32 tables. So one sentence apiece will take us the better part of half an hour.
Point of order, 35.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Henry St. Albans, Cape Elizabeth. We talked about the possibility of church being out in the community, and the greater freedom would be in liturgies or prayers that we have out in the greater community to be able to offer open communion, and the possibility of not including things like the creed in those liturgies.
First Elect, Trinity Portland, also representing St. Paul's, Brunswick, and St. Brendan's Deer Isle, correct? Super. So we talked about three major things. Number one was reduce the trappings of the requirements of the principal Sunday service. And we talked about having liberty with the liturgy, having open communion, being allowed to use other traditions, the New Zealand prayer book and things like that.
My name is Galen Hall, and I represent Christ Church in Gardner, Maine, and this delightful motley group of people right here. K5. So, our table looks to the future to construct an after-school environment rooted in safety and fellowship, to understand that our differences are what strengthen and enrich us, and grant peace of mind and contentedness to any troubled young adults. And we would need committed people, tutoring programs, nutritional instruction, parental aid, legal security, and adequate spaces to pull this off.
Thank you.
We took it very seriously. I'm Robin Gardner, representing St. George's Sanford and St. David's of Kennebunk, and taking both of your questions into consideration are one side.
Can't hear you.
Closer to the mic.
Taking both of your questions into our consideration, we came up with the concept of Sundays at Walmart or other venue of your choice, with open communion for all. It utilizes a free-form liturgy with dessert and beverage to follow. Sandra Degas, churches from Skowhegan, Waterloo area in Portland.
We would like the freedom to establish which day of the week would be our Sabbath meaning worship, fellowship, education, and an opportunity for civil discourse.
Thank you.
Carolyn Eklund, St. Paul's, Brunswick, with our friends from St. John's and Thomaston. We are aware of people who are estranged from religious institutions, and we would like to provide communion on the common with these freedoms, Bishop. Freedom to serve cider apple juice that is locally grown, freedom to abbreviate the service, freedom to be able to offer communion to the unbaptized, and freedom in the absence of a priest to offer communion, a deacon to offer communion from reserved sacraments.
Thank you.
Ben Cook, representing guests and those without votes or vote. We'd like the possibility to be open to breaking our liturgical restrictions, particularly on a Sunday for the principal service. But most of all, we want to be able to share those experiments fearlessly without fear of the cans.
Laura Patton, St. Martin's, Palmyra, along with friends from St. David's, Kennebunk, and Christ Church, Gardner. Following upon a new ministry that came up this year at St. David's, super supper, serving people who live at motels, not just go overnight, but they have to live there. They would like help in collaborating with other churches to expand this ministry to go beyond once a month, and potentially help with better tools and equipment so that they can have better meals and warm meals that they bring to these people who have no warm meals.
Thank you.
Jason Burt, St. Albans, Cape Elizabeth, a friend from St. Peter's and Trinity in Portland. We were interested in the freedom to redefine congregants in good standings such that we might make people feel like members of our church who never show up on Sunday morning.
Thank you.
Marsha Williams, York Harbor, St. George's in York Harbor, as well as Wynn and Millinocket. We already feel that we have a number of freedoms. We've had permission to tweak some of our major services to fit our needs, and the way we'd like to be able to tweak the way vestries and our community functions so that we can get more work done, and reaching out personally as to groups as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wendy Rosine from St. Anne's, Wyndham, and friends from Blue Hill, St. Francis, thank you, I forgot that on my way up. Our enterprise zone would be to meet the needs of people in poverty by creating a net of legal, health, and social support systems that churches across all denominations could draw on in times of crisis with families and throughout the year to assist the poor.
Mary Bork, St. Matthew's in Hollowell, and Table 10 over here. Bishop, we would ask for support for the concept of a Jubilee Center in the Augusta area.
Thank you.
Sharon Steele, representing Bath and Ellsworth. We would like support in gaining the freedom from inhibition and embarrassment, and the skill sets and confidence to know what to say outside of the church.
Thank you.
Denise St. John from St. Peter's in Bridgeton and Booth Bay St. Columbus. Thank you. We talked of reaching out to the youth in our community through possibly establishing a Newman Club and getting them to do positive social media. We would need a spot on the diocese website for them to upload their vines or their movies, and also a global diocese to reach out to people from other cultures, learning more about the services in their countries, and possibly having someone who speaks the language to give a service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Barbie Tinder from Christchurch, Norway, and representing St. Peter's Rockland as well. We come from the lakes and the sea, and we dream of being able to bless the boats and have waterside services. So we need your permission to have the services away from our church structure and to have the laity have the ability to give blessings as well.
Thank you.
John Van Sicklen, St. Andrews, Newcastle, and representing people from St. Mary's Falmouth. As we move out into the community and engage stakeholders in the community, we realize we want to do that from a position of not knowing and not carrying some of our baggage. And we also realize that we want to listen and not engage in feedback. And as we do that, we wonder if it would be possible to have public worship in a place such as the public library.
Thank you.
Ann Holland, Faulkner Sherman, St. John's Bangor, and we also have Trinity Lewiston at our table. Both of these representing cities that are growing. We talked about possibilities of ministering to new residents, to those who are visiting our communities, especially in hotels and with the new Civic Center opening in Bangor, the homeless, those on campus, and those who lack transportation in outlying neighborhoods, as well as reaching out to those who are shut in. The freedom, we specifically talked about doing an Ash Wednesday service in West Market Square. Not a service, but imposition of ashes, and also on campus. The freedom that we would ask from the bishop is the freedom to fail, and we would use that freedom to try and risk.
Thank you.
Jennifer Reese, priest in charge at St. Anne's, Calais, and also representing St. Thomas, Camden. We are both from communities that have been challenged by division within the communities. And so we both are thinking of ourselves as ministries of reconciliation within our communities. We are thinking about making an ecumenical coalition for the fruits of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace, self-control, etc., to represent those to the larger community as the way to be. What we need for from the bishop for this, everything we could think of, we already have that freedom, but we want you to help us to take those freedoms and use them to work ecumenically, to have ecumenical progress in reconciliation. Okay.
Mackenzie Pooley, representing St. Bart's, the Cathedral, St. Patrick's, and St. James. We see our congregations as communities of faith, not just church, and we would like the freedom to color outside the lines in terms of liturgy, regulations, and other things that keep us stuck.
Janelle Harrison from Trinity Saco and St. Anne's in Wyndham. We would like to offer a satellite community in a nearby town that is lacking in meeting church presence and a church community, to offer Christian formation with adults and at the youth level, to get the word out into the community, start a conversation about God that is comfortable and genuine.
Michael Valentine from the Cathedral Church of St. Luke in Florida. With respect to the first question, to continue the process to look outward to other community organizations and to work with them to further their causes in order to help answer the question of how can we help you. In regard to the second question, the additional freedoms that we might need are somewhat unknown at this point until we have further dialogue with those in the greater community.
Thank you.
Mary Ann Millay from the Episcopal Churches of Piscataquis County, also representing St. Mary's in Falmouth. We would like the freedom to make the sacraments available to those in the community without a clergy presence.
Thank you.
Jeff Clonin, our table had two coastal communities, St. Nicholas, Scarborough, and St. Mary and St. Jude in Seal Harbor and Northeast Harbor. The Mission Enterprise Zone is outside of our buildings, where participants are close to nature and can enjoy the spiritual aspect thereof. So we thought about services at the beaches, whether salt or fresh. The house church, musical evenings in homes, where performers could come in and the music may be religious or not, and an opportunity to use those venues for enlarging whatever we do inside the churches. And there's a lot more about one sentence.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Cindy Bowyer, Deacon, the Eucharistic Episcopal Cluster.
We in the Heuristic Cluster dare to dream for the resources needed to repurpose St. Luke's building into a safe, supportive, loving environment for women, especially those women who are facing a pregnancy without the basic life skills needed to sustain a vibrant, productive life.
Thank you.
Dan Summers, St. George Regional Harbor, with my friends at Table 12 from Good Shepherd and Rangeley. And we discussed offering a welcome to those who join our communities on a seasonal basis and come far from home and feel alone and isolated. And we would seek the freedom to blur the lines between our communities and other faith communities to create a welcome to those who are like those we are seeking to welcome.
Thank you.
Paul Mazer from St. Margaret's, Belfast, and also Cascade?
Trinity.
Trinity, Cascade, yes, okay. So we'd like the freedom to extend sacramental liturgies ecumenically and even including civic groups adapted to the language, symbols, and needs of groups of people in transition, such as teens, new retirees, AA, the homeless, and the elders aging in place but sometimes out of sight.
Thank you.
Betsy York of St. Anne's Marcel, part of the Heuristic Cluster, and also representing Good Shepherd of Fulton. To better meet the needs of the homeless and drug abuse addicts, youth and adult, we need resources to help us with the legal issues regarding the possibility of assisting those folks and how we can engage them in meaningful worship with alternative services that we feel address the local need.
Thank you.
George Sheets with St. Michael's Auburn and with our new friends at St. Bart's Yarmouth. We answered the last question with we use them to leave the four walls to gather our communities within our communities.
Thank you.
Corey Walmer, St. Luke's, Wilton. We also had Rumford and some folks from Rockland at our table. We also answered the second question first, and that is that we really have the freedom already to do quite a few things that we discussed at the table. A couple of the ideas that we came up with were interested in college ministry. Right now, we don't have the freedom to do that. We see a big need in several of our communities to provide a safe place for children, particularly in the middle school age range during their off hours. And so we would seek to be looking at developing services for that age group.
Thank you.
Marty Norris, representing St. Mark's, Porterville, Christchurch, Eastport, and St. Aidan's in Matthias. Our realization is that in following Christ, we have the freedom bestowed upon us as children of God, and that outside of stretching some liturgical boundaries, we really don't need an awful lot of help from you. We love you, but we don't need as much help as we thought we did.
Thank you.
How would you follow that? I'm Pamela Smith, representing the parishes of St. John's and St. Saviour's, which are two parishes on Mount Desert Island. We struggled with the questions because right now some of us are very much mired in building maintenance and very aging populations. So we bantered around these questions, had some struggles, and what we came up with is we seek to take advantage of the enthusiasm and the energy of our student neighbors at the College of the Atlantic to work with them to meet human needs in the MDI community while encouraging them to participate and lead teaching and worship in the name of our congregations, whether or not they are churched. Whatever help you can give us, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Sue Olson from Church of Our Father in Hulls Cove, and also representing the St. Philip's from Wisconsin. Our first question was, we needed more time. But we decided that we would like to allow the definition of communicants in good standing and register of services to include those people that contributed regularly to the church's programs, such as the food pantry and the thrift shops, but they do not attend our worship services regularly. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm David Greer of St. Giles, Jefferson. We're really exploring the possibilities of reaching out to the senior population in North Lincoln County, which is the oldest county and the oldest state as far as age goes, and inviting seniors to our building to offer basic health screening services and activities like sewing, quilting, and other crafts in a safe, warm place for older persons who are often homebound and alone.
Thank you. A couple of things that strike me right off, and I think the clergy and I can have a conversation about the use of Rite 3 in our prayer book, which is authorized for use and underutilized. Almost no one, in my experience, uses it on a regular basis. And that is an outline of worship where the content is to be provided for the occasion. And so I would invite you, as you're thinking about worship outside the church in different settings, to look to Rite 3 as a resource for much of what was talked about in this session. It's available now, and you have permission to use it. Secondly, the comment about building use and ecumenical fellowship, I believe we already have permission to do. Under the rubric of hospitality, our buildings can be used in many ways, including for ecumenical and interfaith worship, and that certainly is available to you now. And the idea of shared space with community groups, again, opportunities that you already have in front of you. So I would encourage you to explore those. Wonderful ideas, and I will get back to you about what freedoms I might be able to offer. I sometimes say that certain requests are beyond my pay grade. One of them, and I think I need to say this, is the authorization of lay people to preside at services of Holy Eucharist. That's a whole church decision. But I think there are opportunities available to us already in terms of lay people presiding at services of worship that are non-Eucharistic. And that is something that I want to encourage. And I would invite each congregation to consider development of a corps of worship leaders and licensed preachers who are available as a part of a worship team in a congregation to lead various kinds of worship in various settings. So I encourage you to look at that opportunity and to present to me the names of folks that you are willing to work with and support and train as worship leaders and as preachers. So thank you very much for this time. Lots of great ideas. Bravo, bravo.